Hello and welcome to the Poultry Health Research Network here at the University of Guelph. I'm Ryan Snyder, the coordinator, and I'll be your host today. Today you're going to see an interview from one of our graduate students who's working on poultry research right here at the university. Enjoy! Hello, today we're sitting with Aizwarya Thanabalan. Thanks for joining us, Ash.
No problem.
So Ash, tell us about yourself. How did you get to be involved in poultry research here at the University of Guelph?
I actually didn't have any background in poultry at all. I came to Guelph with, I think, kind of the same idea that everyone has going into the animal biology program, thinking of that vet school. But then I started working with livestock and research projects, and I was like, this is actually what I want to do. Like, I like the solving questions. I like answering things and not necessarily always finding the right answer, but finding a answer at all. And so I started working as a research assistant with Dr. Kiarie with poultry, and I fell in love and just kind of stuck around.
Excellent. Okay, and that's exactly what we need in our academic community. People who are just like really passionate about like finding answers, asking the questions, and improving everything. So, so tell us about the program and the lab and the department that you're in.
So I'm from the Animal Biosciences department. I'm in my first semester of my PhD with Dr. Kiarie, so the Animal Nutrition lab. Yeah.
And what group of poultry are you particularly working with?
So I'm working with broiler breeders, which is I think a little bit of a less known type of poultry. So they're the actual parental stock of your commercial meat birds.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what exactly are you doing with these groups of birds?
So I'm looking at transgenerational effects of feeding different forms of omega-3 on the progeny. So we're basically working with the mothers, feeding them, and then seeing how this passes on.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you've done specifically with these birds.
In terms of the experiment?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I basically started a 64-week experiment when I was in my master's, which was a little bit of a funny situation to be in, but I got the broiler breeders at day one, and then I raised them on one of the 3 experimental diets, and then kept splitting it to kind of subsequently phase the diets, and then reared the broiler breeders on that, and then when they started laying eggs, hatched at week 34, 44, and 54 weeks, and then raised those progeny and did some immune challenges and performance data on that. So it was a big project, but
sounds complicated.
Yeah.
And so what were some of the diets and some of the challenges that you put the birds through?
So in terms of the broiler breeders and the progeny, they were on algae, which is a DHA-based product, and then Linpro, which is a flaxseed-based product. So really just 2 forms of omega-3, trying to see if there's a difference in how we deliver it, or if one is more efficient than the other, really is what it came down to. Yeah.
And some of the challenges that the broilers went through?
So we actually got to collaborate with your lab on this one. So we put the broilers through coccidial challenges. They're just a really good immune challenge model. We've used it a lot in our lab. You've showed up to a lot of lesion scoring, so you know what that's like.
Right.
So yeah, that was the challenge that we used for all the hatches.
And all your experiments with the animals happened at the Arkell Research Station?
It did. All of them, all 64 weeks of it, I committed to being at Arkell. Got pretty comfortable there.
I can imagine so.
Yeah.
And the feed you had made on site there as well?
Yep, so all the feed was formulated by myself and my advisor. We started with the 1 and then just successively built off of them. And all of them, were sent to the feed mill. All of them were formulated and done there. Yeah.
And so in terms of the data you're collecting, it's going to be production data such as percentage lay and growth performance?
Yeah, so it's kind of been split up into different phases. So like the broiler breeder rearing phase will have a bunch of performance and developmental data for the broiler breeders. And then in the laying phase, again, it's like egg quality, egg production, and just some uniformity on body weight, because that is a huge issue with broiler breeders that we see. And then the progeny was a ton of performance data, developmental, immune data, just everything. Encompass everything.
And what kind of samples are you taking from the birds, both the breeders and the broilers?
I would say with the breeders, just because they're fairly precious birds, we didn't sample them as much. We did take a ton of eggs and plasma for fatty acid quantification, just because that's really the basis of this trial. With the progeny, we kind of got to have a little bit more fun. We gave them cocci, so did some lesion scoring, some jejunal samples, some plasma for immune responses.
Wow,
so, yeah, covered all the things.
A lot of stuff to look at. And so were you running a lot of the analyses on these samples in your lab?
For the most part, we do the analysis in lab, which is nice. It's a good learning opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Are there any new methodologies that you're testing out in the lab in terms of procedures?
I think mostly with the fatty acid analysis, if we can find a way to fine tune it for the yolks and the plasma at the same time would be ideal, just because it is a fairly lengthy process to go through the GRAS chromatography and do it that way. So yeah, we're always trying to fine tune those. I say would be more than anything.
Yeah. So what general conclusions have you found so far, if you're willing to share that with us?
I'm still working on the conclusions. I'm actually only in my first semester of my PhD, so it's a weird situation to be in with like being done the experiment. So I'm just starting to pick away at some of the production data. And so I'm hoping to have some things to present at the World Poultry Conference in 2020.
Okay.
So that's happening in Paris. And so yeah, that's a good one. And so I'm hoping I'll have some answers by then that I can present. So
so as part of your master's, what other work did you get to do, and has that been published or presented?
Yeah, so my master's is kind of nice. It was basically a proof of concept for the building block of my PhD. So with broiler breeders, we know that in nutrition, a lot of the nutritional values that they give you in the NRC for poultry is based off of broilers, but broiler breeders are different because they're restricted fed.
Okay.
And so really before we wanted to start formulating diets, we wanted to see, one, are they actually able to deposit omega-3s into the yolk despite a restricted fed regimen, and then also actually come up with some values that we could use to formulate the diets with. So it was kind of a proof of concept building block to the PhD experiment. So the paper has just been accepted and will be published in Poultry Science. And yeah, I've presented a bunch of data of it over the last couple of years at PSA and IPPE. So yeah.
And so based on your master's work and your PhD work, tell us a little bit about all the other work that's going on in your lab and how like this all kind of falls under one similar theme that you guys may have.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the work we're looking at is, we know with the raised without antibiotics, and we hear it at every conference about how it's not a silver bullet and how, you know, you need to have multiple factors that will kind of supplement each other to successfully raise broilers and meat birds and layers. And I think that's basically the overall theme in our lab, where we're trying to increase the gut health in multiple different ways, whether it's a novo injection of growth factors, whether it's feeding mothers, or whether it's just increasing like a specific amino acid requirement for antibiotic-free birds. So I think it all falls under that general theme, which is...
It's absolutely important.
Yeah, it's very important, especially with the way the poultry industry is moving.
Yeah. And so on that note, like with the importance of this, what are some of the major funders of your project, for your project specifically in the lab?
So Elijah himself holds NSERC Discovery, and so a portion of that does help with the research I've done. But then the two main contributors would be Alltech, so ONT Farms, who produces Linpro, and then Omafra. Yeah, which goes by a different name now. So.
The Ontario Agrifood Innovation.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if we were to take your work and then, you know, expand out to a high level, tell us about the furthest implications of your work in terms of the poultry industry, both locally and globally.
So with locally, I think using ONT Farms product, which is a flaxseed product, is I think very true to Canadian flaxseed production, and I think it becomes a sustainable option if, you know, the results do point towards that way. It's a sustainable, affordable option. So I would say locally, that's how I think it'd be affected. And globally, I think everyone is looking for that answer with raised without antibiotics. And if we can produce a healthier chick prenatally, then why not?
Absolutely.
Well, we might as well give them the best start to life possible. And I think that's really what I'm hoping globally happens.
Cool. Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the poultry industry, both locally or the academic community globally?
Just thank you for all the opportunities really that I've been giving in the last 3 years, whether it's been presenting at conferences, being invited to speak at PIC, just even the donors and the funders of these projects, just, yeah, really nice to be able to do the research that we do and be given the opportunities that we're given. So yeah,
Excellent. Yeah,
definitely a thank you on that part.
and we're absolutely glad that you can help us out with solving some of these huge issues
Yeah.
for the industry. And so where do your interests lie? What's next for you after your program? Are you interested in academics or industry, government?
I would like to stay in research for sure. I think it's what pulled me into livestock, and I think that's where I want to be. I like the questions and the answers and running in circles trying to figure out the answer. So I think I would like to stay in research. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be in the industry working on a product or if it's going to be in academia, just staying in labs. But
Yep.
yeah, just
Well, yeah, wherever you end up, they'll be lucky to have you.
thanks, Ryan.
Okay, anything else that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, this has been another PHRN student interview. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.